because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor. Yet when I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull, because you're like, you're trying to assert yourself into something that we didn't hire you to do. So there are moments, it's just as important to say, okay, I believe in this, and that's why I'm standing up for it, and that's why I'm not being difficult. And then there are other moments to go like, am I the asshole in the room? Like, what is happening here? I think it's about being upfront about like knowing what you actually need versus just like trying to get the job. And then, you know, once you're in it, sort of revealing the scope of your sort of needs to be, you know, fulfilled.
Like an hour ago. So just stop for 1 minute and forget all of the drama of him and the lawsuits and just watch this, because I bet you haven't heard a Hollywood director actually talk like this about this topic.
Because I wanted men to see themselves in each of the men. I wanted men to see what happens when you do not resolve your trauma. I wanted men to see a guy like Ryle, who in his heart is a good man, be unable to control his insecurity, let his fears win and take over, and harm the person he loves the most, the one person who has helped him find himself, who has helped him believe in love again. He hurts her because he never took the time to heal. I wanted men to see that they could lose everything. And I wanted to do it in a way where, in some ways, men felt empathy for Ryle. And if they could feel empathy for Ryle, they could see themselves. The other way to make this movie, which I was really trying to avoid, is to demonize Ryle and to make him the villain. But I knew that I'd lose the men, and for the same reason I don't say toxic masculinity. I didn't want to make a movie like that, because we have enough of that. We have enough man-hating movies that exist in the world. But this is a movie about trauma and ending generational cycles. And the majority of men that abuse come from abuse. That's the data. That's what the research says. Hurt people hurt people. Yep. And the majority of men who abuse don't change. They can't change. The data also says that the only way for a man generally to stop abusing or to stop hurting a woman is for that woman to leave. And then in the next relationship, he can break the cycle. So what's it like to lose everything? What's it like to be a man, to hold your daughter, who you didn't know you'd ever have, who you didn't know you'd ever find love because you don't feel worthy of love, to finally be holding your daughter while losing her at the same time because of the harm that you inflicted. And then having to make a choice in that moment to protect your daughter from yourself because you realize you're dangerous. That was what I wanted men to emotionally experience as a cautionary tale, because and I've talked a lot about women, and I'm grateful to talk about men. And I've talked about the one Lily Bloom, the one woman in the audience. But deep down, there was a hope that there'd be a man in the audience who would recognize his behavior, go and get help, and never harm. And I've had men reach out to me like that, who have thanked me for the movie. And we've stopped those men from harming because they saw what could happen to them. And for that, and for what you said, it makes it all worth it.
Thank you for sharing that.
It's a great question. Thank you for asking.
Wait for this.
Hello you guys, welcome back to Channel Clay. I hope that you're doing well wherever you are in this crazy world. Now, as you see by the title, this is just going to be a quick little video updating on the whole Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni saga that is continuing because neither party has settled. And the party that should settle is most definitely Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, because as more time goes, we have people who are digging more information up, people who are coming out with their stories and sharing, working with either party, positive or negative. We also have people who are online TikTokers, YouTubers who are going through the lawsuits with a fine-tooth comb. We also had Justin Baldoni, who did a interview, a podcast really, speaking about his emotional and rough year that he was exhausted from. And what's crazy is this interview was done prior to all of this news coming out in December. This interview was done in November of 2024. So he's letting us know he's had an exhausting, emotionally stressful year in this podcast. Now, if I haven't been flagged, you would have seen a clip from an interview that Blake Lively did. I still haven't been able to pin down the date, but what I do know is it was prior to her going and doing this lawsuit and releasing the complaint in December against Justin. And you will also see a clip from the podcast where Justin was speaking about his intentions for the movie and what he was really trying to portray. And I don't know about you all, but I believe every word that he says. It seems very sincere, and he had a direction for this movie that I don't know if it really went in that way, because it went with Blake Lively's cut. I haven't yet to see the movie. I still need to do that, but in my opinion, given the fact that Blake's cut is what was released to the public, I don't think the intention and the way he wanted it portrayed got across to the audience, because he made it very clear that he also wanted men to see themselves in all of the male characters in hopes that it would awaken something in them. That if they did see themselves in Ryle, for example, that they would need to try to do some inner work on their issues, go to therapy, so that they're not hurting other people, because hurt people hurt people. So his intention for this movie, what it should have been, I think would have been phenomenal. What it ended up being, I have heard it did well in the box office. I'm sure it had to do with a lot of the drama surrounding and all the chatter. But people did say that it was a good movie and they enjoyed it. So, we would never have known what Justin really wanted for us to see, because his cut hasn't been provided to us. And I'm really, really hoping sometime in the near future that we get Justin Baldoni's director cut of It Ends With Us. But we have Blake's. And from Blake, seeing her in that interview, speaking about how this is something that she does, where a director will come in and book her for a role, and they're thinking that she's just an actor, she's there to do a job, take their direction, and then all of a sudden she switches it up on them and is demanding all this stuff and wants to be in decision-making roles where it comes to directing. And she said that prior to this situation with Justin Baldoni. So this is her behavior. This is her MO. This is what she does. This is not new for her. So all this back and forth, he said, she said, everything that Justin Baldoni has provided, he has been able to pull receipts for. There has been video evidence, and we have Blake's own words that this is what she likes to do. She likes to come in as an actor, that's what she's booked for, and then she wants to go in and take over everything. That is not your job, Blake. And then in this instance, you brought in Ryan Reynolds, and you brought in Taylor Swift, who right now, poor Taylor, she got booed at the dang on Super Bowl. She got Trump mocking the fact that she was booed at the Super Bowl, although I don't know why he's talking about her being booed, because I heard that he was booed as well, and that's why we didn't see him but maybe 2 times prior to the game even starting, because every time he showed up on screen, people were booing him. But I digress. Taylor, Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively thought that they were going to take over this movie. Well, they did take over this movie, and now they're suffering the consequences. Taylor's image in PR, where she's getting booed, is taking a hit. Blake and Ryan's image in the public, in the industry, has taken a hit. This is not working. This is not working, especially when as I said, as more time goes on, we're getting more and more evidence of everything that Justin said about Blake and his experience on this movie and the set being true. I do not understand why they have not just settled this. And I don't know, if Blake and Taylor are still friends at this point. There was some dueling articles that were out a couple of weeks ago. But if I were Taylor, and if they're still friends, I feel like I'd advise Blake, like, you need to settle this. Because not only is it harming Blake and Ryan, it's harming Taylor as well. Taylor is she's just overexposed. People don't want to see her on their screens anymore. After this, and after Travis losing the Super Bowl, I hope that they both just take a break from public and just are not seen, because people need a chance to miss them. I know that it was a very long, silent hard ride home for Taylor and Travis after that loss. Watching Travis walk out in his sparkly suit after they lost, he looked distraught. He looked oh my God, he looked so sad. But that's tough, especially dealing with two people who are used to winning, and then all of a sudden you throw them into a space of people are annoyed by you, people don't want to really see you, and you're losing at football and in the industry. Taylor didn't get Album of the Year, Beyonce did. So it's like they're in an interesting, this is the time where it's going to test them. Everything has been flying high. Everything's been lovely. They haven't really been having any issues. But now this is the place in the relationship. They're at this stage where they've been dealt a hard blow. They're either going to survive it and work through it and move on, and they're still going to be together, or they're going to fold, and sometime here soon we're going to hear that they've broken up. But I do think, because people are suspecting that they're going to break up after this loss anyway, they're going to wait. They're going to try to give it some time so that there's not a connection to the Super Bowl in their breakup. But if anything, Taylor, Travis saying that he is honored to play in front of that man, Donald Trump, who had already prior talked ish about you, and then who had already was mocking you about being booed. How is Taylor okay with that and having that relationship? I know when you love someone, you accept a lot of shit. Trust me, I know. But it's just like disrespect on a large public scale, where this man was like, he'd be honored to play football in front of Trump, where Trump and Taylor are like, they have beef. Like, they have beef. So there's layers to this situation with Travis and Taylor. So it's going to be interesting to see how they work through this tough patch that they've been having. But this is what I wanted to touch on, as I kind of went on a tangent. And I'm not trying to throw any shade at Taylor. It must be an interesting life. Very hard to navigate, where you're so big of a star and you're so well known that you're everywhere and everyone knows your name, to the point where you just become overexposed, where people are sick of seeing you. And she's just living her life. She's putting out this music that all these people love. They've propped her up and put her on this pedestal of like the greatest entertainer. She had a massive tour breaking records. And now, this is how it often happens. They prop you up, put you on a pedestal, and then they tear you down. So I'm not trying to tear down Taylor. It's more so a thing of where I'm like not understanding why Blake isn't settling, at least now, because she sees that it's affecting her friend, her bestie. And you would think that mattered to her, and the fact that it's affecting her and her and her husband's pockets and their careers and working in an industry. I'm not trying to dig on Taylor at all. It's just like, damn. It's interesting to see where these ladies were a year ago at the Super Bowl, where they were up there in that private box with all the celebrities. They were up there. It was Taylor, Blake Lively, Ice Spice. I even think Lana Del Rey was up there. They were having a good old time. They were jumping up and down, hugging each other. And then the contrast of this year with Taylor being there with just Ice Spice, and like, anytime they put the camera on her, they were losing, so obviously she wasn't going to look that thrilled. But it's just crazy how much things can change in a year. But anyway, let's get into this article that sheds a little more light on the podcast that Justin did just the other day. Well, it was done in November, but it was released yesterday. So let's see what he has to say. Page 6 did a little article summarizing what he was talking about. So it says, Justin Baldoni says he's exhausted from a year of emotional stress amid Blake Lively legal battle. So he says in an episode that was released on Monday via the Gents Talk podcast, which was recorded in November of 2024, that he recalled vulnerably messaging his best friend and the president of his production company, Wayfair Studios, to tell them about his anxiety and burnout. Which all matches up because he had the two dragons and Blake Lively breathing down his effing neck, trying to breathe fire onto him. They were even blackmailing and trying to give ultimatums to Sony, like the Sony. That's a lot of power when you can like threaten Sony. Like, hey, if you don't do what I want to do, I'm going to say that there was some SH going on. Crazy. But, so he was talking about his anxiety. He was messaging his friend saying that he's feeling burnt out. He told his friend that he wasn't in the best place. He told him that he was exhausted and that he hadn't given himself time to recover or heal. Recover or heal from what, Justin? We now know from what. Blake taking over his whole movie that he had brought and purchased the rights for, that he had a vision, story, and intention for, and it not coming out to be what it is. And he didn't even get a director cut, didn't even get to go to the premiere like he should have, was put down in the basement. I would be burnt the fuck out too, and not in a good place. And so he's needing to have time to recover and heal, but he hadn't given himself time to do that yet. It proceeds that he had an intense year with a lot of material success and a lot of emotional stress. It was very hard on me and my family, he said. And I'm sure, as he's saying his family, the kids look to be younger, but he's probably talking about his wife and the issues that were going on between him and Blake, and then Ryan's thrown into the mix. And then now I'm sure that it's stressful where you're married. What is his wife's name? I cannot remember, but Justin's wife, they're married, and you have another woman saying that your man, your husband, has SH'd her. That is a horrific feeling because you're having to go to sleep at night beside someone who someone else is claiming made them uncomfortable and SH'd them. That's hard. But I'm sure, because everything that's come out, she knew her man. I definitely think that she also advised him to keep all his ish, to have all his receipts as he has, but that's still a lot to go through. You gotta have a whole conversation about it. You gotta, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. So, he was exhausted. It was a lot on him and his family. Where does it go? He was having anxiety, he was struggling with sleeping, and he wasn't feeling like his full self. He was having to wear a lot of hats because he enjoys his job in the production company that he has built. He says that he loves working for the people he loves working with his employees and the people that he works with on this team and the movies that they make. He loves that they have an impact, and I definitely think that he had intention to have an impact, a more serious impact with this film. He said sometimes it's easy to fall back into our programming and be swept away by the current of self and be kind of taken over by the wave of success and opportunity. So it sounds like to me he somehow lost himself in the mix of the material success of everything that was going on. Maybe he lost himself. We've all been there. Elsewhere in the newly released interview, Baldoni briefly discussed falling short, acknowledging he was a work in progress. This is someone who is acknowledging their faults. We also heard in that audio, that memo, him admitting that he has faults. Sometimes he fucks up. Like, this man falls on his sword and understands that he is not perfect. He has issues. There's some things he may not do right. He may fall short at times, but then you have that directly opposite with Blake Lively, who's trying to act like she's complete perfection and has not taken any missteps, where that's just not true. So with him telling us that, it just gives a more authentic feel to what he's saying, because as people, we all make mistakes. We all fall short. We don't always do the correct thing. That's authentic. Not being perfect. That's not authentic. Like Blake is trying to make it out like she didn't do anything wrong and she's just this victim. Oh my goodness. He says he's a work in progress, but has always strived to be radically sincere and authentic. I can get lost in the same way that everybody gets lost, but healing isn't linear. He wrapped filming in early 2024, had the press release, so now they're kind of just going through a timeline of events. So Justin, I feel like he's been very authentic, and he's let us know what was taking place on that set. And I believe his account. I believe his account of events. There's receipts, there's proof, there's text messages, there's emails, there's audio, there's visual. And there's Blake, as you saw, saying that this is what she does. She goes in as an actor and then switches it up and tries to take over movies. She said it herself. So what are you all like? This is so fucking dumb. This is so dumb. They need to settle. But that's your update, you guys. Again, Brian Friedman, Justin's lawyer, doesn't seem like he was gagged, but not much else has come out. They're supposed to do this court case in March of next year. That's a lot of time for a lot of things to change and for somebody to fucking settle. And I really hope that's what ends up happening. I'll see you guys in another video.